Coming up here on today's San Francisco 49ers Report, we have another Robert Saleh update. The Niners interviewed another special teams coach to take over for Brian Schneider. An NFL exec bold in his backing of head coach Kyle Shanahan, and we're going to run through the list of Niners 2025 free agents. Before we do all of that, be sure to hit that subscribe button here on the show. And I just want to take a look at how we fared with picking up new subscribers yesterday. Our Robert Saleh Jaguars update, 83 new subs on that video. The video that went out last night, talking Saleh, Brock Purdy, that picked up 20 new subscribers. So 103 new subs picked up yesterday here on the Niners Report. Today, can we surpass that number? I want to beat it. We're 103 people away from 155K, so be sure to lock us in and subscribe today. As for Robert Saleh, let's begin there. One of the biggest talking points in Niner land right now, and one of the biggest storylines for San Francisco. They need to get the defensive coordinator hiring right. They need to get the special teams coordinator hire right as well. This is an offseason coming up for San Francisco, which is the biggest, I think, in this Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch regime, making roster decisions, coaching decisions, and trying to get back to playoff contention for 2025. And with Saleh, one of the top defensive coordinators on the market, but there's a lot of competition for his services. He's expected to be the front runner for the Niners DC job, but is he going to get a head coaching gig? He interviewed with the Jacksonville Jaguars on Tuesday. We talked about that on yesterday's show. He was a linebackers coach with Jacksonville from 2014 to 2016 under Gus Bradley. Then he used that job to become the Niners defensive coordinator 2017 through 2020, and then he landed the Jets head coaching job, got fired earlier this year, and then became an offensive consultant for the Green Bay Packers. Looked at as one of the top defensive minds in football. That's why the Jags are interested in hiring him. He's been said to have a lot of fans within that building, and he's a real candidate to replace Doug Peterson. On Thursday, he will interview with the Las Vegas Raiders. The Jags firing Peterson, the Raiders moving on from Antonio Pierce. And there's a new team in the mix, the Dallas Cowboys. Ian Rappaport reporting this morning on this Wednesday, January 15th, that the Cowboys have interest in and are expected to interview former Jets coach Robert Saleh for the vacant head coaching position to take over for Mike McCarthy. This would be their first known request. Now, this would satisfy, don't like talking about it, but it is a thing, one of two Rooney Rule requirements for the Cowboys amid their head coaching search. And the Cowboys are trying to fill one of two buckets here in finding a replacement for McCarthy. They want somebody who has head coaching experience, Saleh has that, and or they want somebody who they know. Obviously, the Cowboys don't know Robert Saleh directly because he never worked for Dallas. They're familiar with his work, but that head coaching experience, he was there with the Jets for a few years, that could go a long way in the Cowboys being interested. With the latest buzz for Dallas, these are the head coaching candidates who have some momentum around their name. Robert Saleh, Kellen Moore, who played with the Cowboys, was a quarterback's coach and an offensive coordinator there. Deion Sanders, who is the current head coach for the Colorado Buffaloes and played with the Cowboys as well, in addition to the Niners, of course. John Gruden, said to have some interest in that Cowboys gig, but they haven't reached out for an interview. And then in-state, Steve Sarkisian has experience coaching at the NFL level as a coordinator. What he's done with Texas over the last couple of years has been impressive. Back-to-back college football playoff appearances. And he's won a lot of games. And in the first year that Texas was in the SEC, Texas made it to the SEC championship game, looked at as one of the top offensive minds in football. The 49ers here, to round this talking point out, are going to have competition for Saleh's services. Is he going to land a head coaching job? If he doesn't, will the Niners still be able to land him, or will another team give him a bag to be a defensive coordinator? As for the Niners' search for a special teams coordinator, San Francisco interviewing another candidate on Tuesday. According to Adam Schefter, former Panthers special teams coordinator and interim head coach Chris Tabor interviewed with the Niners on Tuesday. he could be a candidate to take over for Brian Schneider as well. And he has a long resume with a lot of success operating special teams units. He was with the Chicago Bears, assistant special teams coach from 2008 to 2010. Then he became the Browns special teams coordinator from 2011 to 2017. That's a long tenure right there. He hung around for a reason. He's a good coach. Then he went back to the Bears to be their special teams coordinator from 2018 through 2021. And then he went to the Panthers. He was their special teams coordinator 2022 and 2023. And then when the Panthers fired Frank Reich, he became the interim head coach. I like how the Niners are casting a wide net here. They are interviewing candidates who are young. They are interviewing candidates who are young and inexperienced. They are interviewing candidates who are very creative, who are assistant special teams coaches under really good special teams coordinators who have high-performing units. And in this case of Tabor, they are interviewing a candidate with a wealth of experience. So 2 topics down, 2 more to get to. Brought you the Robert Saleh update. Another special teams coach interviewed. Still to come. An NFL exec backs Kyle Shanahan. And we're going to run through the list of Niners 2025 free agents. Our sponsor for today's show, our friends, our partners at PrizePicks, the best daily fantasy sports app in the game. More than 10 million active members and billions of dollars handed out in awarded winnings. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on their projected stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. And right now, when you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. NFL playoffs roll on this weekend, Saturday, Sunday. College football national championship between Ohio State and Notre Dame coming up on Monday. Take advantage of the last few weeks of football season on the best platform to play daily fantasy sports with, and that's PrizePicks. Speaking of that natty, Will Howard, let's go more than a half passing yard. Yes, you heard that right, more than a half passing yard. It's a great special on PrizePicks right now. Riley Leonard, less than 167.5 passing yards. And then Jeremiah Smith, the young stud wide receiver for the Buckeyes, less than 80.5 receiving yards. Pick more, pick less. Run your game with PrizePicks. Head to prizepicks.com/CLNS. We appreciate them for making today's 49ers report possible. As for Kyle Shanahan, an NFL exec really backing him in an article on The Athletic. And I think this is pretty telling for how a lot of other people view Shanahan outside of how some fans view him. And keep in mind, as I always like to say, the word fan is short for fanatic. Here's what that NFL exec had to say about Shanahan. Within the coaches in the league, no one thinks any less of Kyle Shanahan after this year. It's ludicrous to think that they should get rid of him. Andy Reid had some of these same criticisms early in his career, and now he's clearly in the conversation for the best coach ever. Kyle Shanahan's criticisms are that he's lost a couple of Super Bowls. Okay, do you know how hard it is to get to the Super Bowl? If you throw rocks at Kyle Shanahan and you want him fired, he's going to have a job in 30 seconds. Reid, it was that he couldn't win the big one, and now he's on the verge of winning 3 in a row. Kyle is going to be coaching for a long time. He's going to have another chapter in his career where he's going for 3 Super Bowls in a row. And I agree with that. And I have compared the early era of Andy Reid with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was there for 14 years. He made it to 5 NFC Championship games. He made it to just 1 Super Bowl. Both offensive wizards, offensive minds, not great at game management, a little bit stubborn. Sometimes they didn't admit their flaws, and they did lose a lot of big games. But now Andy Reid is so lovable. Andy Reid found his quarterback. Andy Reid's already won 3 rings, and now he's going for 3 in a row. Kyle Shanahan hasn't won the big game, but he's a great offensive mind. He's a top 10 head coach in the NFL. So if you want him fired, be careful what you ask for. If he were to get canned, he would have a job in a minute. That's how valued and respected he is across the entire NFL. And if you move on from Kyle Shanahan, who are you hiring? The Niners aren't that far away. Did they have a bad year here in 2024? For sure. 6-11 was a huge disappointment. after entering the year Super Bowl favorites after losing the Super Bowl. But if they retool, if they make some changes, if they hit on the draft and in free agency, they can be back in contention next year. And a lot of those moves have to do with the Niners 2025 free agency class. Let's take a look at those players here. These players set to hit free agency: cornerback Charvarius Ward, linebacker Dre Greenlaw, linebacker Devondre Campbell, see ya, offensive lineman John Feliciano, quarterback Joshua Dobbs, defensive tackle Kevin Givens, quarterback Brandon Allen, linebacker Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, cornerback Isaac Yiadom, left guard Aaron Banks. We flip the page. Defensive tackle Kalia Davis, wide receiver Chris Conley, tight end Eric Saubert, cornerback Rock Ya-Sin, offensive lineman Ben Barch, linebacker Curtis Robinson, left tackle Jalen Moore, safety Talanoa Hufanga. And then lastly, running back Elijah Mitchell, tight end Jake Tonches is an exclusive rights free agent, and then running back Jordan Mason is a restricted free agent. Some marquee players on that list, but a lot of players on that list who you can replace. You retain some. I'd bring back Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga. I'd have them back on this defense next year because of their injury issues. If you can get them back on cheap deals and they can stay healthy, those could be great bargain deals. You got to address the offensive line and the defensive line in free agency, but the Niners aren't that far off. If they stay healthy, if they bring in some more talent, if they reconfigure this roster a little bit, they're going to have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL because they finished last place in the division. They can rack up some wins and be right back in contention in 2025, and I think they will be. So which free agents do the Niners need to bring back? Drop me some names down in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, thanks for supporting the show.